I know you've always wanted to know, Mike, what is it like to travel in space if you don't have your own personal spaceship?
Boy, that is you are right on the tip of my brain there.
Well, what if I told you Space Bus is the answer to that?
I kind of assumed. I mean,
So, I mean, I love the way how everybody's like packed in,
uh huh.
like any kind of traveling you do. So, essentially, Supergirl and Ruthie, no longer having Ruth I, no longer having a ship to escape on, have to travel via space bus then because Supergirl, who has spent over 24 hours in a red sun planet, does not have all of her power set, so she can't just fly
Yeah,
around anywhere. So
yeah.
she has to resort to public transit just like everybody else would, or a way to, get from point A to point B. So,
I
uh,
would get on a space bus.
well, there's a point you see the giant thing sitting between them. At the
Yeah,
first part of this issue, like Ruthie is up against the window and he's like leaning over into her space. Like she's having to like push him over and he's too big to like he's very like, it's just like any other public or any other kind of travel you've done of where he's taking over way too much of her space. She's like she goes onto this long spiel about I was believed if I bought this seat that I'll have X amount of space to sit in, and like you're leaning over into my space kind of thing.
yeah. This looks
Um,
very much like the Spirit flight I took to Vegas. It looks very much like that. Yeah.
same passengers too.
Pretty much. Yeah, yeah. Lots of
So
loose animals and things running around. I mean, it was just yeah.
oh, lovely. So we come to find out, I think it's explained a
Loose
little bit
animals.
later in this, but I'll explain it now. When Krim shot Crypto,
Mm-hmm.
he was shot with a poison arrow. Their hunters
Oh.
hunt with poison arrows on our planet.
Mm-hmm.
Each hunter has like their own little mix. So for them to be able to help Crypto, they need to hunt down Krim to know what he used to be
You got to
able
get like an
to.
antidote. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Sure.
Supergirl tells Ruthie this, and she's like, "You know him. If you saw his face again, like I wasn't able to see him well. If you saw
Yeah.
his face again, you'd be able to point him out where we could get him, right?" And Ruthie's like, "Yes." Ruthie to her, like what Supergirl's trying to say, she's like, "All right, and then help me hunt him down to find this antidote." And to Ruthie, she still wants Supergirl to avenge her father's death, right?
Sure.
That's her
Sure.
big thing there. So that is while they're traveling, trying to hunt down Krim of where he could have possibly gone. As they travel, there's a point where they stop on this station, and I just really kind of love this. Did I include the whole thing? Yeah. And so they walk off, and it's like these space stations where you can like get a meal, use a bathroom, everything you would think a space station would have, where you would
Your
stop while you're
regular
doing,
space station. Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
space bus travel. And so Ruthie gets something to eat, Supergirl has something to drink, and they're talking back and forth, just Supergirl and Ruthie. And Supergirl's like, "How do you like travel?" And Ruthie's like, "I guess I like it so far." Like you have to think it's very much like kind of Country Mouse and City Mouse, except Country Mouse in this case and Ruthie is a rock farmer who's never left her
Yeah.
planet, who didn't even know that spaceships were a thing. So this is
Rock
all a lot for
farmer.
her. Rock farmer. While they're sitting there talking, one of the other travelers like kind of butts in and goes, "Excuse me," and Kara, which is also Supergirl's name, how um Clark or Superman is Kal-El, like Kara is Supergirl's name. I,
Gotcha.
I think it's Kara L. I think they are from the same house.
I don't know her real origin or anything, but that's for another day. That's okay.
Well, here's the thing. The beauty of this is we won't get into it for part one, but it does add to a lot of the story, obviously. Part two does give it to adds more to it. So you're
Okay.
gonna get some
Okay.
answers there too. Or for our part two when we get there. So this other space traveler, as Kara turns and goes, "Yes, sir." He goes, like this guy back here says that you're Supergirl. Are you really Supergirl? Because you see, like Superman put two of my brothers in the Phantom Zone, and I swore that, because of him doing that, that if I came across any of his family, like I was going to kill them for what he did to my family. And Supergirl kind of looks at him and goes, like, "Well, I'm wearing a red skirt. There's like a yellow S on my chest and a cape. So if I'm not Supergirl, then who the hell am I?
Yeah.
And it's very quickly, nothing else is said. And she just quickly just kind of like elbows him to the gut and a quick slam to the, the bar that they're at. And he falls down to her side. And she just goes back to drinking her drink and talking to Ruthie. And Ruthie the whole time is narrating this and is like, I tell you this one instance, just know that it happened plenty of times across our travels of somebody would have some beef with Superman because they didn't like her cousin and because she was a part of the family. Like they tried to make, make a lesson out of her and she would have to hold her own. So this was a common occurrence of their travels, which I just thought was kind of funny. There's a very sweet kind of heartfelt moment in here. Was that after? So while they're traveling on this space station, you're going to love this art. I hope I included both of them. But again, what I did is these are about 26 pages a piece, these issues, and I only have about 12 pages from there. So like pick this up, look at this. There's so much great art that I don't have included in here that we're going through. Like all of it's fantastic. But they come across a space dragon.
Ooh.
And the space dragon, likes to eat things, like including giant spaceships if it were hungry enough.
Well, it's a space dragon.
It's a space dragon, but they shouldn't be over here in this hemisphere, so they don't know why he's over there, but still the same, like they don't have any way to deal with it. And so like Supergirl goes to the pilot and he was like, I heard you're Supergirl. Do you think you could like do anything about this? Like help us from this, this space dragon? And she's like, well, I spent the last couple hours or the last day or so on a planet that zapped all my energy. So usually, yeah, but right now, not so much. Okay, I got an idea. And I love this. You know how we've talked before how Alan Moore is really good about pulling from like old comics and stuff? Yeah. I would argue that Tom King is really good about doing that too. I finally read while I was in the hospital too. Are you an Adam Strange fan at all? Are you familiar with Adam Strange?
I don't know much about Adam Strange. I've heard a lot, but I don't know much about him.
But that's the thing is he used stuff. I know a lot of people don't necessarily like what he did with the character. I really enjoyed the story, but he pulls a lot from like the character's history in there. I have a better understanding of Mr. Terrific now because of that book. So I can help explain him to you when we get to.
That's great.
Yeah. Really great read. But anyway, and so what he has her do is she goes into the bay where everybody's riding. And she's like, all right, who's got reds? And it's like she's looking for drugs. And she's like, I'm not the cops. Like, come on, don't be shy about it. If you have it, she goes, I know you're in here. We all know that it's here. If you like, I'm not the cops. If you have it, just let me get some. Who's packing any? I need some reds. And we've come across this guy who's like, I have some, and they're a prescription for like essentially like my glaucoma. He gives a, glaucoma kind of thing. Sure. And she's like, sure. Now, still, I just need some. I don't care. And what it is Ruthie asks her, like, what is that? And she goes, it's red kryptonite. Now, Ruthie asks, well, what does it do? And she goes, well, it can do anything from turn you into a horrible monster to make your hair grow really long. Red kryptonite was the thing. And I know we will get to it more in some of our World's Finest Wednesdays.
I think we talked about it. I think we talked about red kryptonite. Yeah.
Was always the weird stuff for Superman. Like when he had a lion's head, it was red kryptonite. When he had a head that looked like an ant, it was red kryptonite. Like red kryptonite always did weird, crazy stuff. And so they're playing it up there and she pops it. And I wasn't going to save that page once we get there. She pops it and she looks at Ruthie and her eyes kind of glow red. And she just goes, is my hair growing? Like trying to figure out. She doesn't know obviously what's going to happen until she takes them. Thankfully for her, it gives her power. And this page was just absolutely gorgeous.
My goodness.
And Supergirl is able to get her powers back to go out there and defeat this gorgeous space dragon. And then we are taken to a very sweet kind of moment to close out our space. Well, almost to close out our space travel issue. After they're done, Ruthie, being this, from the planet as a rock farmer, never used an indoor bathroom before. So she's like, I think I did it right. There's just so many holes. Like, I don't know. She's
That's
like,
a
I'm sure.
really good thing to throw in there. Like it's such a good like random detail, but it makes you feel like, oh, these are like people, even though one of
Yeah.
them's an alien, or I guess
Well,
both of them are
both of them
aliens.
are. Yeah.
Yeah,
To us, they are.
it's still cool.
Yeah,
And it teaches children to always wash their hands
it
after they go to
does.
the
Well,
bathroom. So
because
that's
she's
good.
leaving and she's like, Ruthie, are you going to wash your hands?
Yeah.
And Ruthie kind of looks at her and goes, is that a necessity? And Supergirl's like, oh, okay, y'all don't do that. Come here. Let me teach you how to do it. And Supergirl essentially like teaches her how to wash her hands. She tells her like, hey, everywhere you go, they have a faucet. It's usually water and they usually some sort of soap. She's like, you got to be careful. So I went to one planet once where it was acid because the people that live there, like they just regrew their skin afterwards. But she goes, most of the time it's soap. And what you do, and she's like teaching her, and she's like lathering her hands for her and teaching her while she's doing it. And she tells her, she's like, my mom used to always tell me that, made me count, as so long while I washed my hands. And she starts just kind of reminiscing. She's like, if nothing else, Kryptonians were clean. Man, we were always clean. She's just kind of like reminiscing while she's teaching Ruthie to wash her hands there. And it leads to this moment where after they're done, like Ruthie kind of stops and looks at Supergirl and is like, did you ever, she goes, oh, did you ever try to hunt I can't remember how she words it, but she's like, did you ever try to get vengeance or not vengeance, but like, for like, I guess, I don't know, comeuppance in some way of all the people of Krypton? Like, were you able to, that they passed away? Like, did you do anything? And Supergirl's just like, no, I didn't. And Ruthie just feels like in her tone, like she can sense like the sense of regret of like, she didn't do anything there. And like that kind of ends our like sweet moment of where it's like this, like her teaching her stuff. And then we get back to where they're traveling to the next place. And it's another situation of how we started issue 2 of where there's a passenger leaning into Ruthie's space again. And Ruthie's pushing on him again and is like, hey, I was told that if we bought this seat, I'm, given this amount of space and that's it. Like, you're in my space. And the big creature is like, if it were your space, I wouldn't be able to take it. Either shut up or I'll like eat you. Like essentially. And all of a sudden you just see this crack across the face and he's silent and there's just bloods, draining from his nose. And he just leans backward into his seat quiet and goes back to sleep. And it looks like Supergirl hasn't flinched at all. And it's just, we're starting to see that bond between Supergirl and Ruthie just kind of build more there.
That's cool. I like that. I like that moment.
Yeah.
Where she didn't even have to say anything.
Nope. And she's already there sticking up for her. So that is issue 2 of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
Frozen, heroes. Gonna tell you about Frozen, heroes. Gonna tell you about.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.